Hello, so my name is Professor Philpott. I'm Professor of Rhinology and Olfactology at the University of East Anglia, and I run the Norfolk Smell and Taste Clinic. On the back of the Priority Setting Partnership, we set up these the hub with these themes into kind of key areas that we identified out of those priorities for areas for us to focus on. And the idea now is we're going to try to move that agenda forwards. So just a quick reminder that was our top 10 research priorities that we came out with. And of course, the last conference we did 2 years ago was just on the back of that workshop that we'd completed to establish these. So I'm going to start off, as Duncan said, I'm going to talk to you about some of the applications that we're about to put in for funding, and you're going to influence that directly. I'm going to invite Tabitha up, who's my new PhD student, who's going to be talking about her project. My colleague Lorenzo Stafford, who seems to have just stepped out of the room, from Portsmouth, is going to talk about his multisensory study. Then we've got Robin Iredale about Parkinson's disease, and Kaylin, who you may have met at lunchtime, with the digital smell care project. So what I've been doing since the last time is working busily on some funding applications, and two of these are about to be submitted this month. So one of which is a program grant, and I'm going to go through this in more detail with you. This is going to address themes 3, 4 and 5 from that first slide. We are proposing to put in, hopefully after Christmas, funding for a trial to look at some interventions which address theme 3. The other grant we're putting in this month is to the Wellcome Trust, which is going to be addressing themes 1 and 3. And there's a small possibility, I'm waiting for feedback from the university, but there is something at the moment out there as from the Medical Research Council looking for proposals for UK research centres. It's very generic. And so if I get through the university SIFT, we'll have a chance to bid for a UK Centre of Research Excellence for Smell and Taste Disorders. So watch this space. So the first bit, which is the programme grant we've been working on, we've called this for short the ICAST programme, and you're going to start seeing the abbreviation SATD. I've used that to talk about smell and taste disorders discreetly as a repeated abbreviation. So when you see the word SATD come up, that's what it's referring to. So what we're proposing in this programme is 4 work streams. Work stream 1 is going to involve a national survey. So you just saw in one of the previous talks about this being done in the US. We've never done this in the UK. So the idea is to do a national survey of smell and taste. It'll be a cross-sectional representation of society. And so we're looking carefully at how we get all aspects of society represented. And we're about to start some work next month with doing some equality, diversity work, understanding which are the underserved parts of the community with regards to smell and taste disorders at the moment, i.e. the people we're not seeing here, sitting here today. So who are the people we're not reaching so far? Because that's really important when we do this bit of work, is to kind of bring everybody into the mix. So part of the National Smell and Taste Survey would involve sending out smell test kits, taste strips, and we'll be sampling hopefully 25,000 people in the UK. In conjunction with this, we'll also be using existing databases. So there are 2 key databases available in the UK. One is called the UK Biobank. You may have heard about this. There's about 500,000 people who donated their medical information. They've donated genetic information. Some people have donated brain imaging information, and we'll be able to apply to that, to use that database and analyse that database. I think there's about, from the memory, there's 18,000 people in that database who have stated they have a smell and taste problem. There's also something called the CPRD database, which is the Clinical Practice Research Data Link, and that's basically primary care data. So when you go to see your GP, some of the practices log this data in what's called read codes, and that just gives information about symptoms and presentation and prescribing. And if we can access that, again, we think there's about 180,000 people in that database who have got a smell and taste problem reported over the last decade, so we can analyse that data as well. At the beginning of this, we'll do some work with focus groups. We'll be inviting patient volunteers to come along as we go through the questionnaire for the survey. My colleague Matt Netchner at UCL has already done some work in the background on something called Smell QX, which is a questionnaire designed to kind of work through smell and taste problems. And so that will be part of the mix. The second work stream will then be looking at developing an intervention. So one of the things we're very conscious of, one of the things that you've talked about today is what support is available. And so what we want to do is develop better support mechanisms, and that's where I'm going to be asking for your input in a minute. So we're going to start with the initial preliminary work. Lorenzo's going to be leading some work, hopefully, if we get this funded, doing some multisensory studies. And then we're going to work with patients. We're going to have focus groups looking at all the main causalities of smell and taste disorders to work out what are the things that we need to be developing for an intervention. And that's the bit I'm going to be asking for your advice on in a minute. And as we develop this intervention, which may include things like an app, a website, counselling and food packages, we're then going to undertake a trial where we actually test the intervention compared to what's available at the moment, i.e. what is available through Fifth Sense. And then on the back of the trial, the idea is then to do an implementation study where we actually sort of sit down with people like commissioners, clinicians, funding bodies and say, okay, now the NHS is going to fund this intervention, how do we actually overcome the barriers to actually get people to access it and it become part of everyday healthcare? So this is your chance now to speak. So I'm going to ask you some questions about what we are thinking of doing, and hopefully technology is going to work for me. This is called WooClap. Right, so if you put out your smartphone or other electronic device and you go to the website and you punch in that code, you should now have access to this question. And so the first question is, when you discovered you couldn't smell, how did it make you feel? Now there's a count on the bottom which should tell me if you're actually accessing it. So I've got one person's answered so far. Oh, there we go. Numbers are going up. If you haven't got a smartphone or an electronic device, and please do ask the person next to you who has got one to input something on your behalf, because your responses are all valuable. Yeah. Stick it up as a word cloud. Okay, everyone felt they've had a chance to put in something. Well, clearly the big word in the middle there is frustrated and sad. Okay. Upset as well. Yeah, okay. Right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. People still entering? Okay, we'll go on to the next one. So, next question is, what things did you find useful in terms of support when you basically found out you had a smell and taste disorder? This sense of nothing competing for the lead here. Okay. Hopefully you all had a chance to put something in. I will, last 10 seconds. Okay. So nothing in fifth sense, definitely coming up tops there. Okay, all right. Next slide. Right. So, who did you get the best support from when you discovered your smell and taste disorder? So you've got various options there. You can choose as many of those as you like. Fifth sense going head to head with partner and spouse on this one. ENT not doing very well. Okay, everyone had a chance to vote? All right, good. So, next question is, which of the following types of support would you like to see or like to have seen when you discovered you had the problem? Looks like number 1 and number 6 leading the charge. Everyone had a chance to put an answer in? So it looks like information on coping and also the psychological strategies sort of leading the way there. All right, okay, we're going to move on to the next one. And so this is a kind of a free will bit. Any other support you would like to see available that we haven't mentioned on the last slide? So this is a bit of free thinking, any thinking on things that you might want to see. So any specific things that you think we should be maybe including in this body of research? Okay, so it looks like in terms of things that might be palpable, access is definitely a key one there. All right, I'm going to move us on to the next slide. Right, so now thinking about delivery methods for support. So which of the following methods would you like to see deliver the support if we were doing this in practice as part of the research? So seeing some love for the face-to-face stuff. Okay, last few seconds to vote. Okay, right, I'll move us on to the next slide. Good, okay, so thank you very much for that. That's really valuable. I'm going to take that back and that's going to shape our final cut of the research application, which is being submitted later this month, all being well. So the other thing that we're hoping to submit is a bid to the Wellcome Trust. And so one of the things here is that the top research priority that came out of the research priority exercise was about how can we further understanding of disease mechanisms for smell disorders, including parosmia and phantosmia. And I guess this is quite a fundamental thing underpinning, how we move forwards, because it helps underpin what we do in terms of developing new interventions and targeting subsequent research as well. So this bit of work is going to involve a lot of data collection if it's funded, and we'll be investing hopefully in some equipment at the University of East Anglia. We now have a brain imaging centre at UEA, and we're hoping to sort of harness that as part of this work to collect a lot more information. So I'll tell you a little bit more about this. So the idea is that we will be recruiting patients with all types of smell and taste disorders, and I'm inviting them to come forwards, collecting demographic information about their cause, how long they've had it, other conditions they may suffer with, doing sort of baseline smell and taste tests. We'll be inviting them to undergo neuroimaging through MRI scans, including functional MRI. So that's basically when you have an MRI scan when you're actually smelling stuff. To take genetic and biomarker information. So there are various kind of measures that have been associated with dementia and aging issues that we can look at. Look at evaluating something called optical coherence tomography, which would involve putting a little probe into the nose and looking in detail at the cellular architecture on the top of the nose, collecting the mucus in the nose and measuring the proteins in it, looking at quality of life impacts, so specific to smell and taste, more general sort of quality of life, depression scores, and then related nutrition and cognitive functions, so looking at dietary impact, dietary status. And so the idea is to develop essentially a repository, a biobank of data around people with smell and taste disorders that we can use as a basis to move forward with research that becomes more focused. We can understand better the nuances of the conditions that we face and therefore potentially apply more targeted treatment in the future. So the bid will involve, as I say, establishing this sort of repository. We'll also be continuing the work on memory and olfaction, which you're going to be hearing about shortly from Tabitha. We'll talk about olfaction and aging, which you've also heard about in the previous talks. to be able to kind of develop proof of concept studies. So we're doing a proof of concept study at the moment with vitamin A as a Apollo trial, so we want to do more work around that for potential therapeutic agents, and then obviously then move that into formal randomized controlled trials where we may be able to offer drug treatments. So what I want to ask you here, again for your input, is, I seem to have gone back one. So anything that you think from my list of measurements that we should be collecting? So very quickly here, sorry, we're losing on time now. Anything you think I haven't mentioned that we should be measuring in you, if you were volunteering? Are working? Okay. So this is measurements we would take off you if you were participating, coming to as part of the study. So we can't measure more information, but is there any measurement about you you'd like to see us capture? And then, in the process of keeping to time, I'm going to quickly flick on to the next slide and simply ask, if this study was funded, how likely would you be to volunteer to have all these measurements done on you? Maybe that's a silly question. Have your brain measured and your taste measured and your smell measured and blood taken, so all these things, questionnaires to fill out. All right, okay, well, I'm conscious of time, so I take that as an overwhelming sort of popular support there for us measuring you. Right, good. So, so some of the equipment that we hope to get in will sort of involve various sort of pieces of olfactory apparatus. And so that's our brain imaging centre at the University of East Anglia. So you can see one of my team there, and you can see the MRI tunnel to the left, and you can see the olfactometer in the foreground. And so basically when you come in, we sort of pipe odours through to a mask that's over the face when you're in the MRI scanner. We can actually look at dynamic changes in the brain as happening as you're smelling. So just to mention some other existing activity. So you may be aware, I just mentioned about the Apollo trial, looking at vitamin A. Unfortunately, we had to kind of pause the study last year because the drops we were using expired. I had to go back to the funder and ask for more money to get more drops, and we got more money. The drops had stopped being supplied by the supplier. So I then had to go back and find a new supplier. Then I had to go back to the funder and get more permission to get the funding extended. And that whole process has taken a year. It's incredible, the hoops you have to jump through. So we are due to restart, and that's hopefully going to kick off again just around Christmas. I mentioned the macro trial. The macro trial is for patients with chronic rhinosinusitis. We've hit our target, recruited 514 patients as of about 3 weeks ago. All the patients now, remaining patients are in follow-up, so the study will formally end next April. And then we'll start analysing the data and see what the outcomes were. We've got some other studies going on, including a screening study for head injury-related smell and taste disorders. You're about to hear about digital smell care and memory, so I'll leave those. And in fact, to that point, I will hand over to Tabitha.
So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about my PhD project, which will be looking at the effect of smell loss on declarative memory. I've always had quite an interest with olfaction and memory, and I think like many people, I lost my smell when I had COVID, and I kind of woke up to the reality of what that's like. My project will be supervised by Professor Philpott, who's speaking to you all today, and also Dr. Louis Renaud, who is a psychology academic at the University of East Anglia. So It's kind of known in the literature that olfaction and memory interact, and some other speakers today have spoke to you already about that. So there are connections between memory and olfactory brain regions. This is found when individuals are simply smelling scents, but also when they are at rest, suggesting this common network between these areas. This is kind of then further evidenced when you actually look at memories themselves. So personal memories tend to be really strongly evoked by olfactory stimuli. They're very emotional and they bring a greater sense of feeling like you're brought back in time. And this is found to be greater than when looking at memories evoked by other senses or trying to evoke memories that don't have that personal kind of quality to them. But it's not just when you look at memories for past events in people's lives, also when you look at things like memories for knowledge. So simply reading an olfactory label is enough to activate areas in the olfactory cortex. And also mental imagery, which kind of relies on your knowledge of the smell and experience with the smell, activates olfactory processing brain regions. And as also someone spoke about earlier, olfactory memory training is enough to improve visual memory. So the links here are clearly quite strong. So therefore, given these really strong links, olfactory loss may impact declarative memory. This is kind of known within Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, that there is a link between losing your sense of smell and also losing your memory. Less work has been done on how it might impact other types of memory, so semantic memory, like memories for facts and knowledge, and also how this links in individuals where the smell loss is not due to a neurological disease. So it has been found that olfactory loss impacts memory processing brain regions with individuals who had suffered from smell loss due to things like viruses, and that there was reduced grey matter in the hippocampus, so grey matter being kind of what processes information, and the hippocampus being very important for memory processing. And also, olfactory mental imagery is found to be less vivid in individuals experiencing smell loss. So therefore, memory training might aid olfactory processing. And this has been found in normosmic individuals undergoing olfactory mental imagery training. It did improve their ability to detect odours. So with all this in mind, what I hope to try and do is understand these links between olfactory loss and memory more strongly, and then help to implement and design a memory-based intervention for individuals experiencing smell loss. As you will all know, a lot of the interventions out there very much focus on smelling, but there is a potential that hopefully looking at something more cognitive-based might be able to have some benefits. So yeah, thank you very much.